Hey crew, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jono Choi and I'm the leadership coach. In my channel, I share the frameworks and strategies to help you lead yourselves and your teams to victory. In today's video, we're going to be lasering in on the top 5 qualities you should be looking for if you're looking to build a remote team. I'm going to be sharing my tried and tested method over 500 interviews, which allowed me to scale the remote team that I was working with previously. In my time, I doubled the team size from 55 members to 110 in a matter of 2 years. This means that I was hiring 2 quality team members per month, along with my existing training and development responsibilities. Now, to help save you time, here are the top 5 qualities and their timestamps. We've got loyalty, proactiveness, problem solving, learning capacity, and teamwork. Now, before we jump into the video, quick shout out for Margin Boone. He answered the question on my Instagram, which was in my last thumbnail, which hip hop artist was I replicating? And the answer is Drizzy, aka The Sixth God, aka Drake, aka Hotline Bling. So well done, Margin Boone. So finding the right team members can be a time-consuming process. On a platform like Upwork, you've got a lot of consultants who are pretty much rate hunters, people who are after the highest rate, but easiest or shortest piece of work. As a result, there can be a lot of back and forth about what the rate is and negotiating purely on the rate. In addition to this, depending on how close you worked with your remote team before, their workstation probably looks a little something like this. With the amount of screens, they're probably watching Netflix and also working on more than one engagement at a time, thereby increasing their rate even further. And in the worst case, from my experience, what I've seen is that some remote workers are actually delegating the work that you are giving them, the work that they're supposed to be completing, and handing it off to other remote workers. So they're basically running their own little agency. So how do we cut through the noise and how do we find highly engaged and highly loyal members? Today, I'm going to be sharing the secrets on how I did it. Now, the first quality is loyalty. And this quality will help you separate a lot of the desired candidates from the rest of the pool. As I mentioned before, a lot of consultants on freelancer platforms are just taking short windows of work and they're not really interested in being with an employer in the longer term. So on these consultants' profiles, you'll be seeing a lot of jobs with short durations, typically a couple of weeks or a month at the longest. The star candidates that we want to be looking for are consultants with a couple of engagements, maybe a few at most, where they've worked on the contract for a long time, maybe a year or 2 years or more. We can also be asking this as a filtering question in the interview process. When we're interviewing our candidates, we can ask them, are you currently working a 9-to-5 job alongside your freelancing duties? Or if they're freelancing full-time, how many different contracts are they juggling at the same time? Now, if the candidate is really a good fit for your organization and they match your values and they understand your organization's mission, then you could always propose the question, would you be willing to work for me full-time? Now, you don't want to be a control freak. You can have the caveat that they can still be working on short windows of work, maybe 2 to 4 hours a week, but the majority of their time and focus should be on your engagement. By getting the loyalty aspect right, this is a high leverage move to make sure that you're building a sustainable team in the longer term. Getting loyalty right allows you and your employee to trust each other. So similar to how your employees trust you to do your work when you're by yourself, you can trust them as well when they're in another location in the world and perhaps in another time zone. One of my most successful hires was a veteran in the customer service industry. So this guy that I was chatting to, he was doing a couple of short contracts on Upwork, but he was also looking for a new challenge. And he was working for a really good company in his 9-to-5 as well. They were offering him an attractive rate, there were good challenges, but he was looking for a change of scenery. So I made the proposition to him that he could work part-time with my company and still keep his 9-to-5 job. And in doing so, he could test whether he'd like to make the jump and hedge his risk as well since he had a family. Now, since he had worked 8 to 9 years for this customer service company, I knew that he was highly loyal and highly engaged as well. And by placing this proposition forward to him, I was giving him an opportunity to try out my company, but also for me to poach someone as good as him and put him onto my team. The second quality is proactiveness. And this quality can really save you a lot of time in the hiring process. Specific methods that you can test proactiveness is when you're chatting with your candidates on the platform. So when you're chatting with them, you can send them problem-solving questions or questions about themselves and their work experience, and you can give them a deadline on when to answer the question by. And by asking these questions, you're testing a range of capabilities that go under proactiveness. If there's a lot of uncertainty with the question, is the candidate willing to ask you questions to have a better idea of the ask and what the solution should be from their side? In addition to this, it can be testing how good their time management is. If you give them a really short time frame and a deadline, do they communicate upwards to let you know that they can't complete it on time, and do they ask for an extension? If they are showing these capabilities, these are really good signs that they are a star candidate and that you can be considering them for your dream remote team. By them showing proactiveness, this will remove a lot of worry and pain for you as their leader later on. In the future, when they're on your team and your business has unforeseen circumstances or challenges, you know that your employee will step up to the challenge. And if the candidate is showing these capabilities, these are great signs that you are choosing a star candidate. The third quality is problem solving. Now, what I'm not asking for when you're interviewing candidates is to ask whether they've saved the company from bankruptcy before, but rather when they're answering questions, how they break down the problems and what their thought process is. So 2 particular frameworks apply here, and what you need to use is the STAR framework and the SCQA framework. If your candidates are answering the questions along the lines of the STAR framework, which is being able to explain what the situation was, what they did about it, and what the results were, that's a really good sign. This shows that they understand how their work fits into the overall perspective and mission of the company. And it shows that they're not completing a task just for the sake of it. In addition to this, it shows that they're results oriented and that they are ambitious as individuals. The other framework is the SCQA framework, and this is more to do with understanding the problem at hand than the results. A good way to test SCQA is to ask your candidates what their understanding of the problem was. And as an interviewer, your job is fairly easy. Once they've asked the problem, all you need to do is ask why continuously. This will allow you to drill into your candidate's mindset and their understanding of the root causes that the problem consisted of. In essence, problem solving to me is having clarity of thought and being able to map out a problem into its different parts and focus on the most important ones that will bring you to the solution. Ultimately, having good problem solvers on your team is a competitive advantage. When you combine team members from diverse backgrounds and diverse problem solving sets as well, combined with your own understanding, that's when you're able to produce a unique solution to the problem of your industry. Now, one of my favorite sayings when I was hiring team members was culture breeds culture. So Airbnb's founders are a really good example of this. I think their principle was to hire the first 100 or 1,000 team members from yourself. And why this is an important principle in Silicon Valley is because once your existing employees can hire new ones, the new employees' behavior will be modeled off the original blueprint's culture. So if you have bad culture and people who aren't willing to take extreme ownership of their problems, this will pass on to the new generation as well. And you'll have a whole lot of people who are indifferent and don't care about actually helping your customers and solving problems. So hiring elite problem solvers from the start is a really good way to get your business scaling beyond your own capabilities. The fourth quality is learning capacity. And in order to check this with your candidate, it's a pretty straightforward process. And what you need to ask your candidate is, what is the most recent skill that you learned and how did you go about it? What you want to be listening out for is how they went about the self-learning process with their new skill. And specific answers that you want to be listening out for is, are they afraid to fail? Are they willing to test new concepts that they've learned? And how do they go about the research process? Are they good at using the internet, books, and different mediums to combine a collective approach of the particular skill? And how did they apply it to their own thinking and practice? If their answer is very comprehensive and they were good about researching the particular skill and putting it into practice and also reflecting on their learnings, then we know that we're off to a good start. The second thing we want to listen out for is the aspect of grit. Now, this is a concept popularized by organizational psychologist Angela Duckworth. And basically what grit is how much pain you're willing to take when you're going through a challenge. And the concept of grit is that people with higher grit are able to make it through tougher challenges and as a result learn more about themselves and a process. And as such, they're able to be more successful than other people with lower grit who aren't bothered to go through the motions and the pain of mastering a skill. The final quality is teamwork. And questions we can be asking our candidates are, have you managed team members before? And if so, have any of these team members been promoted? I really love this question because I believe that leaders build leaders. And if someone is a good manager, they should have developed their team in such a way that their team members had more opportunities than before. Another good teamwork question to ask is how they managed team conflict in the past. Are there any difficult team members that you worked with before, or any conflicts that you've had with team members? And if so, how did you manage these conflicts and reach a resolution? The candidates that we want to be looking for are people who can manage their own ego and embrace humility. At the end of the day, we want to be hiring someone who has less capability, but has a good personality and can play as a team, instead of someone who has super high talent and will piss everyone off. If we're building a remote team, we need to be careful of hiring these really talented people who might be able to do a lot of the work, but who can't get along with anyone. In order to build a dream remote team, you need people with different skills who complement each other and personalities who are complementary as well. And the common denominator to this is people who are willing to be humble and don't let their ego get control of the room and their team. So I hope these top 5 qualities help you build your dream remote team. Once you've started applying these principles, feel free to drop back to this video and drop me a comment below. Otherwise, if you have any other input or constructives, please drop a comment as well. If this video helped you today, I'd really appreciate a like, subscribe, and hit the bell as well. Otherwise, follow my Instagram at The Lead Coach for daily leadership frameworks. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next video. Deuces.